Hello, and thanks for stopping by. London has long been at the very heart of pop music. Many famous bands and performers have hailed from the capital, others have come here to make their name, and the city is home to a large number of studios, both past and present, where some of the greatest ever albums have been cut. Given this rich musical legacy, it's no surprise that London has also provided a backdrop for many music videos. And in this video, I'd like to take you on a tour of some of the most memorable locations which appeared in the 1960s, 70s, 80s and 90s. This collection isn't definitive, of course. There will be many more examples, so if you can think of any which aren't included here, then please do note them down in the comments. I'm sure we'll be able to put quite a playlist together. Also, if you wish to watch the videos we're going to be seeing here in their entirety, then I've put a YouTube playlist together which includes all of them. I'll leave a link for that in the description below. Pop music, as it's recognised today, is generally regarded to have emerged in the 1950s with the rise of rock and roll. Although it wasn't until the 1960s that promotional music videos began to gain traction. One such video, arguably the most famous early example of a music video, was Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues, in which Dylan flips through a stack of cards bearing the song's lyrics, whilst Allen Ginsberg and Bob Norworth have an unheard conversation in the background. Subterranean Homesick Blues was filmed in May 1965 on the corner of Savoy Hill and Savoy Steps, just behind the Savoy Hotel, where Dylan, who was approaching the end of an England tour, happened to be staying. Two other lesser-known versions of this video were also shot within the vicinity, one on Embankment Gardens, and the other on top of what appears to be the Savoy Hotel itself. Also recorded in 1965, this time in colour, was Concrete and Clay by the Hertfordshire band Unit 4+2, and for their promo, a very unusual location was chosen, the vast building site of what was to become the Barbican Centre. In this video, both the tower block known as Great Arthur House and the roof of the old Cripplegate Institute can be seen. And going by the position of these two buildings, I'd say Unit 4+2 staged their performance roughly here, close to what's now Gilbert House. The area has transformed so much though that it's difficult to say. Where would you place the site? Another notable music video from this period is Dead End Street, which was released by one of London's most quintessential bands, The Kinks, in 1966. Their promo for Dead End Street was filmed on Little Green Street, an atmospheric 18th century path tucked away off of Highgate Road. This tunnel beneath a railway line, sited on nearby College Lane, also makes an appearance. You can't discuss the 1960s without mentioning the Beatles, who, famously of course, hailed from Liverpool, although much of their career was fostered in London, most notably at Abbey Road Studios in St John's Wood. Whilst not a music video as such, it's always fun to point out that the opening to the Beatles' 1964 film, A Hard Day's Night, in which the group are chased by screaming fans, was filmed at Marylebone Station, both inside the terminal itself and along the adjoining road called Boston Place. Paperback Writer, on the other hand, can most certainly be classed as a music promo. It was shot in the gardens of Chiswick House on the 20th of May 1966. Like the Kinks, the Small Faces were very much a London band, and in 1968, the video for their record Lazy Sunday was filmed on Havering Street in Stepney, back when, as the footage shows, outside lavatories were still a thing. Nowadays, most people associate the Wolverhampton-formed group, Slade, with early 70s glam rock, although they were around for a few years before that. At one point, in the late 60s, they were known as Ambrose Slade, and in 1969, they filmed a sequence for their tune, Genesis, at Houston Station, which in its rebuilt guise was then brand new, having only been unveiled the previous year. We'll begin the 1970s with the Middlesex-formed band Mungo Jerry, who in 1970 pitched up in the middle of Park Lane, outside the Hilton Hotel, to perform their hit In the Summertime. Filmed in 1973, the video for David Bowie's Life on Mars, which features Bowie in a striking ice blue suit, wasn't shot on the streets. It was put together here, inside the former Blandford West 10 studio at 124 Ladbroke Grove. Located opposite Ladbroke Grove Underground Station, this site is deceptive, for the entrance as it stands today is very narrow. When it first opened in the early 20th century though, this site was home to a cinema before later becoming a studio. It was also at the Blandford West 10 studio in 1978 that Kate Bush recorded the video for her song Hammer Horror. Another studio-made video of note is Video Killed the Radio Star, which was recorded by the Buggles in 1979. This was filmed at Teddington Studios, and famously, a few years later, Video Killed the Radio Star was chosen as the very first music video to be played on MTV when that channel launched in America in 1981. Teddington Studios have since been replaced with, yep, you've guessed it, flats. Although if you head down to Teddington Lock, which backs onto the site, you'll find this line of blue plaques, which commemorate some of the most famous writers and performers who were associated with the old studio. The latter half of the 1970s was famous for the emergence of punk, and one of the first bands to pioneer that genre in the UK was The Damned, who in 1976 filmed the promo for their single New Rose in the basement of the Hope and Anchor pub on Islington's Upper Street. Back then, the Hope and Anchor was one of the best venues in London to see such acts, and it continues to host live gigs today. It was also in the late 1970s, following political violence in Jamaica, that Bob Marley came to live in London. He and the Wailers had already spent time here in the early 1970s. Bob said he considered London to be his second home, and in 1978, the reggae legend came to the Keskadee Arts Centre, named after a Caribbean species of bird, located on Gifford Street, between King's Cross and Caledonian Road, to film the video for Is This Love? Sadly, the Keskadee Centre closed in 1991, and the building was gutted by a suspicious fire in 2012. A block of flats now stands on the spot. It was also in 1978, on the opposite side of the Thames, that The Jam shot their promo for News of the World on top of Battersea Power Station, which was then still operational, complete with smoke billowing out. Another location to feature The Jam is Victoria Station, which appears briefly in their video for Strangetown. Not too far from Battersea Power Station, on a dark, rainy night in 1979, The Clash filmed their video for London Calling on a boat on the Thames close to Albert Bridge and Cadogan Pier. Apparently, this shoot was initially intended to be carried out during the daytime, although a misunderstanding of the Thames tide led to a several-hour delay in filming, which arguably lent itself to a far more dramatic result. Our first video from the 1980s comes from November 1980, Runaway Boys by the Stray Cats, a band who'd formed in New York City but moved to London as they felt the British music scene was more in tune with their style. Runaway Boys was filmed in Woolwich and featured the local art centre known as the Tramshed. Directed by Colin Fulcher, aka Barney Bubbles, the video for the specials Ghost Town, which was released in June 1981, was filmed over the course of one night, with the band driving around an eerily deserted city in a 1961 Vauxhall Cresta. Many locations can be seen on their journey, including the Barbican, various tower blocks in the Financial Square Mile, and the Rotherhithe Tunnel. Another tunnel the specials drive through appears to be Western Street, this section of which has long since vanished beneath the redeveloped London Bridge Station. That means the path taken by the Vauxhall in 1981 would have been roughly along here, on what's now the station's main concourse. The final scene of the Ghost Town video, shot at around 5 AM, shows the specials on the shore of the Thames, close to St Catherine's Dock, looking towards what was then a very decrepit Shad Thames. A world away from that industrial decay were the Kensington Roof Gardens, which were sited above this large block, the former Derry and Tom's department store on Kensington High Street. In 1982, the Scottish band, The Associates, recorded 2 promos at the Roof Gardens for a French television broadcast, those songs being Club Country and their most famous hit, Party Fears 2. One of the biggest songs of 1982, indeed of that entire decade, was Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners. Directed by Julian Temple, the video for Come On Eileen was filmed around Brook Drive in Kennington, just a few minutes walk from the Imperial War Museum. This is the old corner shop on Brook Drive. And other scenes were also filmed around here, on Ulstall Street, and beside what's now a community garden on Lamlash Street. Also released in 1982 by Dexy's Midnight Runners was the slightly less well-known, but equally brilliant, Celtic Soul Brothers, the video for which was filmed around Cricklewood, mainly Cricklewood Broadway, and the famous Crown Pub. Alongside the Kinks and the Small Faces, who we saw earlier, Madness are one of the best known groups to have come from London, and over the years, they've shot many films and promos on the capital streets. Perhaps the best known of these are Baggy Trousers from 1980, which featured the Kentish Town Church of England Primary School on Islip Street, and the neighbouring Oxford Arms pub, now the Parakeet, and 1982's Our House, the house in question being on Stevenson Street, close to Wilson Junction Station. A few years later, in 1987, another similar residential street, in this case Upsurn Road in Chelsea, opposite the old Lots Road power station, featured in Terence Trent D'Arby's Sign Your Name. And not too far from here, just off of Fulham Broadway, is Berkeley Road, which can be seen at the end of Dance Away by Roxy Music, a song recorded in 1979, although the video dates from 1982. London Calling, which we encountered earlier, was directed by Don Letts, and in the 1980s he worked on a number of other projects. The first of these was Pass the Duchy by Musical Youth, which came out in 1982 and was filmed on Albert Embankment, opposite the Houses of Parliament. The second, from 1983, was IOU by Freeze, which featured kids riding around Clerkenwell on BMX bikes. The streets including Sands Walk, Seckford Street, and St James's Walk. Also released in 1983 was Elton John's I Guess That's Why They Call It The Blues, which was filmed at the Rivoli Ballroom in Crofton Park, Lewisham. First opened as a cinema in 1913 and converted into a dance hall in the 1950s, the Rivoli has starred in a number of other films and music videos, most notably 1984's Private Dancer by Tina Turner. Like Ghost Town, West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys, which was made in 1985, showcases a collection of London locations, including Wentworth Street and Petticoat Lane Market in the East End, arcades around Leicester Square, and the concourse of Waterloo Station. West End Girls has scenes filmed along the South Bank too, which can also be seen in Absolute Beginners, released by David Bowie in 1986. Our next site is a little more unusual, because it's not a film location as such. This is 66 Old Compton Street, which was once home to a company called Rush's Post Production. It was here, in 1985, using what was then state-of-the-art computer technology, that the video for Dire Straits' Money for Nothing was animated. Another video from 1985, which displayed technical wizardry, was Take On Me by a-ha, a Norwegian band who'd moved to London to pursue their musical career. Take On Me skillfully blended live action with animation, and the cafe featured in the real-life sequence was the former Kim's Cafe at 390 Wandsworth Road. Back then, Kim's Cafe was a typical greasy spoon place, and it's still somewhere you can go for a bite to eat today. It's now a Turkish Mediterranean restaurant. To date, Take On Me has amassed over 2 billion views on YouTube, which I guess makes this unassuming address one of the most viewed places on the internet. Take On Me has a sequel, The Sun Always Shines on TV, which was released in the autumn of 1985. This video, in which Morton Harkett's character reverts to his illustrated form, was shot in Udney Hall Gardens. And inside the neighbouring St Albans Church, now the Landmark Arts Centre, both of which can be found in Teddington. There's one more video from 1985 we should look at, and that's A New England by Kirsty MacColl, part of which was filmed on the Alexandra Road estate located towards the northern end of Abbey Road. In the 1990s, the regeneration of London's once derelict docks began to come to fruition. The most symbolic aspect of this transformation was the One Canada Square Tower at Canary Wharf, once the tallest building in Britain, which can be seen in 1994's Parklife by Blur. As you can see, back then the huge office block stood all alone. Now of course it's surrounded by a cluster of similar towers, resembling a mini Manhattan. Another scene from Parklife was filmed on the Greenwich Peninsula. This colourful row of houses on River Way, next door to the Pilot Inn pub. Other big bands from this era were Oasis, who filmed the promo for their 1994 debut single, Supersonic, on the roof of a now demolished warehouse opposite King's Cross Station, and the Spice Girls, who filmed the video for 1996's Wannabe just up the road at the St Pancras Grand Hotel. Another important band from the 1990s were Pulp, who released a number of singles in 1995 which were accompanied by videos featuring London locations. One of these was Misshapes, which was put together at the Hammersmith Palais, a much beloved London institution that's sadly no longer with us. And perhaps most famously, Common People, which was filmed on the light-up disco floor at the old Stepney's nightclub. There was Disco 2000 as well, which featured scenes shot at Angel Tube Station. The London Underground has starred in a number of music videos over the years. You can see St John's Wood Station in Bedsitter, which was released by Soft Cell in 1981. Holborn Station in 1983's New Song by Howard Jones, and in 1986, Paul McCartney surprised the public by riding along the Jubilee line for his single Press. Perhaps the most famous music video shot on the tube though is Firestarter by The Prodigy, which came out in 1996. This creepy promo was shot within the tunnels of the abandoned Aldwych Station, which had closed to passengers in 1994. Another acclaimed video from the 90s is Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve, which was recorded in 1997. The video for this song depicted the band's lead singer, Richard Ashcroft, striding along Hoxton Street whilst barging into various passers-by. How rude. The following year, in anticipation of the 1998 World Cup, the group Fat Les, fronted by the actor Keith Allen, released the rollicking Vindaloo, which parodied Bittersweet Symphony by marching along the very same street. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of London's music video locations, and as always, I'd love to hear your own thoughts. Out of all these songs, which is your favourite? And are there any other similar sites you can think of that I didn't include here? If so, please be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to Rob's London, then I'd appreciate it very much if you could please consider doing so, as this, along with clicking the bell icon to receive notifications, will ensure that you don't miss out whenever I publish a new video. Plus, of course, it'd be wonderful to have you along. If you're feeling extra generous, you can also support my work with a tip via either my Ko-fi account, which I'll link below, or the YouTube thanks button, which appears as a heart icon beneath the video. Any such financial donations are of course greatly appreciated, and they really do help go towards creating content. Anyway, on that note, thanks again for watching friends. Stay well, and please be sure to stay tuned.